The rain came down in sheets that night, relentless and cold, washing the dust off the long, lonely highway that cut through the outskirts of a quiet Virginia town. Daniel Hayes tightened his grip on the steering wheel, squinting through the windshield wipers that worked furiously against the storm. The faint cries of his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, drifted from the backseat, her tiny voice trembling as thunder cracked across the dark sky. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said softly. "We'll be home soon." He wasn't sure if he was comforting her or himself. Life had a way of hitting Daniel all at once. The death of his wife 2 years ago, the financial strain of raising Emma alone, the long hours as a mechanic just to keep food on the table. He had learned to carry his pain quietly, the way some men carry old scars, always there, just hidden under the sleeves of duty. Then, through the blur of rain, something caught his eye. A figure. At first, he thought it was his imagination, just another shadow dancing in the storm's chaos. But as he drew closer, the headlights cut through the rain and illuminated her. A woman, barefoot, her white dress torn and soaked, standing by the side of the road with her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Daniel's heart kicked against his ribs. He pulled over without a second thought. When he stepped out, the cold rain slapped him across the face, but he barely noticed. The woman looked up, startled, her eyes wide, frightened, almost desperate. Her makeup was smeared, her hair tangled from the wind. She looked like she'd been running for miles. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Daniel shouted over the rain. She hesitated before answering. I need help." Her voice was soft, trembling. "Please." Daniel nodded, reaching out a hand. "Come on. You'll catch your death out here." She took his hand, her fingers freezing against his. He opened the passenger door and helped her in, quickly turning up the heat. Emma sat up in her booster seat, her big blue eyes blinking curiously. "Daddy, who's that?" she asked. "She's just someone who needs a ride, sweetheart," Daniel said, giving her a reassuring smile before turning to the woman. "You're safe now." The woman glanced back toward the dark stretch of road behind them, as if expecting someone to appear out of the rain. Her hands trembled in her lap. "Do you live nearby?" Daniel asked gently. She shook her head. "No, I just needed to get away." He studied her face for a moment. There was something haunting in her expression, not fear of the storm, but something deeper. Like she was running from more than bad weather. They rode in silence for a while, the hum of the car engine mixing with the soft patter of rain. Then Emma broke the quiet. "You look like a princess," she said matter-of-factly. The woman's lips twitched into the faintest smile. "Do I?" "Yeah," Emma said, swinging her legs. "Princesses wear dresses like that." The woman looked down at her torn gown, the satin now muddy and ruined. She gave a small laugh that ended in a sigh. "Not anymore." Daniel caught her gaze in the rearview mirror. "What's your name?" "Isabella," she said after a pause. Isabella Monroe. He didn't know it yet, but that name, that face, was plastered across every news channel in the country that night. She was supposed to be standing at the altar of a Manhattan cathedral, marrying William Bradford III, the heir to a billion-dollar empire. But instead, she was here, in the passenger seat of a rusty old Ford pickup, running barefoot through a thunderstorm. Daniel's modest home sat at the edge of a small town, a quiet, worn-down house with peeling white paint and a porch swing that creaked in the wind. When they arrived, Isabella looked uncertain. Hesitant to step inside, but Emma tugged on her hand. "Come on. Daddy makes the best cocoa ever." Isabella followed her inside. The warmth hit her immediately, the smell of coffee and faint engine grease filling the air. Daniel tossed her a towel. "Here," he said, trying to sound casual, though his curiosity was eating at him. "You can dry off. I'll find you something to wear." She took the towel, nodding gratefully. "Thank you for stopping." "Would have been wrong not to," he replied simply. In a world where most people looked away, Daniel had never learned how. Maybe it was because he knew what it felt like to be left standing in the rain. A few minutes later, she was sitting at the small kitchen table wearing one of Daniel's flannel shirts. It hung loosely on her, sleeves rolled up past her elbows. Emma had insisted on brushing her wet hair, giggling as she worked through the tangles. "So," Daniel said carefully, setting down a mug of cocoa. "You wanna tell me what happened?" Isabella's fingers tightened around the mug. "I ran away." "From what?" She hesitated. "From a wedding." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That bad, huh?" She let out a soft laugh, but it was edged with something heavy. It wasn't just any wedding. It was mine. He didn't press. Instead, he just nodded, giving her space to continue. I thought I wanted it, the fancy life, the mansion, the security, she said quietly. But when I looked at the man waiting for me at the altar, I realized I was marrying everything I didn't believe in. Money, control, image. None of it was love. Her voice cracked slightly. So I ran. Daniel leaned back, studying her. There was sincerity in her eyes, the kind that couldn't be faked. Guess we both know what it's like to lose something we thought we needed, he said softly. She looked up. You, my wife, he said. Cancer. She was gone before I even learned how to live without her. Isabella's eyes softened. I'm sorry. He shrugged. We get through it. For Emma. And just like that, a silence settled between them, not awkward, but gentle, like two souls quietly recognizing the other's pain. Over the next few days, the storm cleared, but Isabella didn't leave. She helped Daniel around the house, cooked breakfast with Emma, and listened to the little girl's endless stories about school and fairy tales. At night, she'd sit on the porch with Daniel, watching the fireflies blink in the tall grass. There was something peaceful about it, something she hadn't felt in years. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Isabella turned to him. You know, I used to think happiness was about having everything, she said. But I've never felt more free than I do right now. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe freedom's just being seen for who you really are. She looked at him, her eyes glistening. And you see me? Yeah, he said quietly. I do. For the first time, she smiled without sadness behind it. But peace never lasts forever. 3 days later, the news caught up to her. Daniel was in the kitchen fixing Emma's lunch when a sharp knock came at the door. 2 men in black suits stood outside, rain-soaked and impatient. Mr. Hayes, one asked. We're looking for Isabella Monroe. She's been reported missing. Daniel's pulse quickened. Behind him, Isabella froze, the color draining from her face. He didn't know what to do, lie, or tell the truth. But before he could decide, Isabella stepped forward. It's okay, she said softly. I'll talk to them. The men escorted her outside, but before she left, she turned to Daniel. Thank you, for everything. You reminded me what kindness looks like. He wanted to stop her. To tell her to stay. But he couldn't, this was her fight, her life. As the car disappeared down the road, Emma tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, is the princess coming back? He swallowed hard. I don't know, sweetheart. Weeks passed. Life returned to its quiet rhythm. But Isabella's absence lingered in every room, the extra cup on the counter, the faint scent of her perfume, the echo of her laughter in the halls. Then, one morning, as Daniel was opening the shop, a sleek black car pulled up outside. The door opened, and there she was, no guards, no cameras, no fancy dress. Just Isabella, in jeans and a soft smile. Hey, she said, stepping out. He froze, wiping his hands on a rag. You came back. I had to, she said. I told my father I wasn't going through with the marriage. I told him I wanted to start over, on my own terms. He raised an eyebrow. And how'd that go? She laughed softly. He wasn't happy. But he'll live. She took a step closer. Daniel, you once told me freedom was being seen for who you really are. I want to live that way. And I want to start here, with you. He didn't say anything. Just looked at her, this woman who had walked into his life by accident, and somehow made it feel whole again. Emma came running out of the shop, her little arms wrapping around Isabella's legs. You came back. Daddy said maybe you wouldn't. Isabella bent down, hugging her tightly. I told you, princesses always find their way back. Daniel's throat tightened. He'd spent years believing life only took things away, but maybe, sometimes, it gave back too. That night, as the three of them sat on the porch watching the stars, Daniel reached for Isabella's hand. She didn't pull away. The world was quiet, no headlines, no noise, no expectations. Just 2 broken souls who'd found something sacred in the wreckage of their lives. And somewhere in the darkness, as fireflies danced and Emma fell asleep in Isabella's lap, Daniel realized something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Hope. Not the kind you read about or dream up, but the kind you build, one moment at a time, beside someone who finally feels like home. Because sometimes, the road you never meant to take leads you exactly where you're meant to be. And sometimes, stopping for a stranger in the rain can change everything, not just for them, but for you, too.